So the next question from Pauline S. She asks, what do you think about the difference between collecting and consuming? For example, collecting magic or board games versus playing them. Collecting comics versus reading them. Are they different hobbies? What's the value of each, and is one or more worthwhile?
Okay, so when we're collecting things, right, we can store them, we can look at them, we know that we have them. You know, there's this material sense to having something. So that's a positive to collecting. Whereas the playing side is you're actually having experiences with things, right? So who here actually collects anything?
I have collected a lot in my past. I don't do it as much anymore. It's interesting the way you described it as a positive. I don't know that my view on collecting is super positive anymore.
Well, let's hear it.
It feels like hoarding. It feels like, especially so I used to collect comics as I was growing up, and actually through my 30s and everything, I was doing comics, and I've kind of stopped for a long time. And I like comics, and I love comics, and we have comics all around here. But for some reason, owning things like that you don't read or engage with or consume, as Pauline was getting at, feels a little bit, I don't know. There's an investment part of it, okay, like where you just sit on them and hold them, and that's an accumulation of something with a value. And there is a lot of joy in collecting, right? You collect pins, or you collect, Coke cans.
And then you have a collection you can show people.
Sure. And the act of hunting for more, I think, it's the journey, right? It's not the stuff. It's the hunting and going and gathering. It's very primitive. It's hunting and gathering, right? As I've gotten older, I've kind of realized that I really feel like simplifying is where my joy is now. It's getting rid of all that crap I've stockpiled over the years, and still hunting and gathering for my favorite things, but in a very simplistic way. Yesterday I was drinking coffee, and I was like looking, and I've got like 15 coffee mugs, and I'm like, I really only like that one mug. Where the hell is that one mug that I like? It's in the dishwasher. I'm actually going to rinse it out and use it again because it's my favorite. Maybe I don't need those other 14.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know. That's something I've been thinking about lately.
It's interesting because in this conversation, I think that there is an interesting amount of separation between the two.
Collecting and consuming.
Yeah, because when you become a collector, and whether that's by self-description or by some arbitrary standard, it seems as though there becomes this. You pointed out that the action was no longer the consuming, and the action was the hunt, and all of a sudden the main way that you were engaging with this thing that you liked is no longer the way that you engage with it anymore. And so you are all of a sudden separating yourself from the core fire that burned in your heart at the beginning, and it is very interesting to me because I have not found anything that I super passionate about collecting at this point.
Well, from what you just described, it sounds like they almost go into each other. Like before you become a collector of these comics, you were avidly consuming them until that was your favorite thing. You just loved these comics. How could you prove that you loved this thing the most? Wow. It's I'm going to collect them. And not only that, this is how you really prove you love the thing the most. It's condition. And that's the real difference between consuming and collecting, is if you care at all about if there is a nick in your comic. If you care at all about
condition, you'll never touch it. That's another thing. Is that you are you love your collection so much that you refrain from engaging with the stuff.
You're afraid to read it because you might damage its value to someone else.
Yeah. You put the vinyl
not even
record
your
on the
own
wall.
Value to it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think it makes sense after you've experienced that first value of just consuming the thing regularly. I hate caring about how the condition of something is, so I am not a collector like that.
You don't sleeve your cards?
Actually I do. Just feels good. Just feels good. How you just flick it on the table
like air hockey, just
it's so good. But yeah, no, I don't like caring about condition, although I do think I collect something. I collect CRT TVs. But here's the thing.
What's a CRT TV?
So you remember the old box TVs that are so I collect those for an experience, and that is for like I want to have like gaming like tournament events or whatever, and like a lot of retro gaming like runs specifically good on these old like TVs in this like latency thing. And so there's kind of like several things that I tap into that with that collection, kind of like retro vintage technology, and giving it like a use. Like it's not just, you know, it's garbage, it's just a bunch of stuff, until it's like, well, no, it's like for the event, bro, and I'm gonna like market that event, and it's gonna go in my resume. So that's why we need all these TVs in my garage, Dad. Can we? It's really important.
Jared, do you collect anything?
I mean, I've been sitting here trying to think.
Like instruments?
Okay. Yes. Okay. So when I was in high school, when I was really into magic, not Magic the Gathering, but like I thought I wanted to be a magician.
Yes.
I collected a lot of playing card decks. Probably got up to 30 or 35 or so, and that was definitely like a wardrobe type thing, where it's like, oh, what kind of vibe do I want my magic to give today while I'm at lunch making a fool of myself?
What kind of magic man am I
Picture
today?
Jared doing card tricks at lunch. It makes me so happy.
A lot. I did it a lot, and it was silly. But and then and with instruments too. I mean, I have been into music for forever, but only in the past 4 or so years started the like actual instrument climb, and just expanding my sonic palette is so exciting, because it's like this new object that I can play with and has all these new
How's your sonic palette, Mark?
Not as expanded as Jared's.
It's not nearly as expansive. Exactly.
Okay, well, interesting. The only other thing that I think about with collecting specifically is that there is this really real similarity between the amount of stuff that you keep and the amount of like space it takes up in your mind too, right? I think there's part of why I think you enjoy simplicity right now so much in your life is there's already so many other things going on that you don't have to carry around the emotional weight of things in your home or in your living spaces or your workspaces, etc. So there is something really nice about not having so much stuff, because you don't actually have to carry around the energetic weight of those things in your life too. So I say consumption over collections, my opinion.
Yeah, accumulating is different, I think, than consuming, right? Because you can get stuff and you can consume it, and then you're done with it and you want to get rid of it, or you completely consume it. And there's the accumulation part of it where you're stockpiling, and you're kind of, a lot of the investors, I think, do that with the things that they collect. But I think a lot of folks don't, I think it's the joy of the hunt over the joy of the gather. And there's a toggle between those two.
Also, in all of our games coming forward, we should have nutrition facts on the side for consumption purposes. The end.
To truly answer the question, is the cereal more nutritious than the box?
Exactly.
I think there's almost an entrepreneurial skill in accumulation, because, like, for example, like a few months back, we went to Lake Oswego or wherever to pick up those shelves, those like 10 feet shelves, and I'm like, what are these? Why is this my day? Why is this relevant? What is this? And like now our back room is fundamentally built by the existence of those shelves, which was also my day putting them there. But
that's right.
Our day.
Mm-hmm.
It's our day.
There are more days coming.
But there's what you're saying is that there's an amount of accumulation that is like beneficial, that it's not this like detrimental.
A skill to be able to
universally.
see a thing of like, ooh, that's like a thing we just might need, like shelving. Like shelving is just like that's not on my radar. I haven't lived
infrastructure. It's infrastructure. So sometimes you accumulate things like building a house. You want a place to go to the bathroom. You want a place to wash your dishes. You want, sometimes accumulating the right things gives you the infrastructure to do the things that you need to do, or it's a design issue.
Mm-hmm. I like it. Accumulation versus collection versus consumption versus experience. There's a lot going on here. But I'm going to move us on.
Move on sound.